YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Three Simple Men Making Their Way Through the Galaxy. I'm Tom, with me is Ryan and Mike, and we are finishing up our Clone Wars animated movie. And where we last left off, Anakin and Ahsoka were delivering Jabba's son to them. Guys, how are we?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
Fantastic. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, so we pretty much left off knowing that yet again, Anakin and Ahsoka were on their way to a trap. Dooku had informed Jabba that his son was killed by the Jedi, and that Anakin, yes,
Fake news.
lied to them, and that Anakin was on his way to assassinate Jabba. So I know we kind of watched a little bit more from kind of what we watched last time. We pretty much ended right where with Dooku and the two droid guards, but we rewatched a little bit of that first part today, and I did catch something that I found interesting that I wanted to talk about. Ahsoka asks Anakin about his home, says, "Oh, didn't you grew up here?" And this was your home. Tatooine was your home, and he repeats the word home. And as he does it, it kind of like fades. It's a close up of his face, and it kind of fades to Jabba's palace and outside. And the next thing you hear is a Tusken Raider screaming, which obviously, not sure if there was. I didn't see an actual Tusken Raider on the screen. I saw some bantas, but I think it was more Anakin's kind of memory, because the last time he was on Tatooine, he was slaughtering an entire village of Tusken Raiders. So kind of interesting.
That's a good thing to bring up, because I was going to say this is going to be a dialogue or a conversation that's going to definitely come up later throughout the Clone Wars TV show, where we get to a point where this conversation is going to be brought up with Obi-Wan involved later down the road, because this is going to be a huge revelation for Ahsoka, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised. I know I'm jumping a little ahead here, but like at one point when Obi-Wan is messaging Anakin, like, "Hey, where you at?" and just like, "Oh," and then he contacts Palpatine and Yoda about it. It's like, "Oh, Anakin's experience with the Hutt's a plus." I'm like, you sure about that? Because I mean, for Anakin's background and what he did last time he was on Tatooine, I really wouldn't consider that to be a positive thing when trying to negotiate with Hutts. So
yeah, I think we discussed that last week, where just like this is a big red flag, where just like this is a high risk, high reward type of scenario in a way.
Well, now the only people that really truly know what Anakin did to those Tusken Raiders are Anakin and Padme, right? Because he had told her what he had done. We had the moment, I'm recalling a few episodes back, where Yoda kind of senses, but all he senses, he just says that he senses great pain in Anakin. He doesn't say, we don't, as far as we know, I'm assuming nobody else knows that he did that, and it's kind of a secret that he's keeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to bring up now, because we'll get to it a little bit later on, but and I don't want to get too deep into it yet, because I think there's a bigger secret later on in this movie that we touch upon again. Anakin's he's dealing with a lot, and we kind of breezed over it, or it doesn't actually come up in the past since we've seen him. Kind of what has happened in Attack of the Clones hasn't really come up in at least the few Clone Wars episodes we just watched, right? Because it's really just him focusing on the battles. But we do have to talk about that, and I think we can wait a little bit towards the end to bring kind of that kind of conversation up. But we do have this. The next kind of scene is the attempted landing on Tatooine. And we get some fun bickering between Ahsoka and Anakin, because Ahsoka, thinks that the rear shields need to be fixed, and Anakin says, "No, let's just get the guns up and running. We don't need to worry about a defense as long as we have a good offense. And then as soon as he says it, some enemy ships come up from behind to attack. And
That's kind of funny because I wanted to bring this up way before. Is like I thought there was a constant theme about this movie, and that was the whole idea of spoke too soon. Because everything you see in those one-liners throughout this movie, it's like, oh, we don't need to protect the back, we just need to protect the front for an attack. Next thing you know, that happens, and it's just a constant. Oh, spoke too soon.
Yeah.
And we do get some fun R2-D2 action, as in him interfacing with the ship, which is always fun to see. And
I think like Anakin had like compliments R2 for taking that other ship, but wouldn't compliment Ahsoka for taking out the first one to begin with. So yeah, that was funny.
that's true. I didn't even catch that, but you're right. Ahsoka takes down the first one, but then you're right. R2 gets the second one and gets a big.
And you hear the line, "Get him, R2."
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So then of course Obi-Wan appears via
Hologram.
comlink or hologram, and immediately says, "Anakin, did you get shot down again?" As they're working on crash landing. So yet again, we get Obi-Wan just immediately kind of belittling Anakin, which you see Anakin then probably tries to pass on to Ahsoka a little bit.
Yeah, Ahsoka was quick to respond yes and said it like in a sassy way. So yeah, I think she was starting to catch on very quickly that yeah, Anakin's not a Jedi that goes by the book.
No. With that, we do get the conversations that you kind of just mentioned with Palpatine, Yoda, and Obi-Wan. And during that, we do get the a quote, which will probably be my quote to talk about because it was a fun one. Yoda says, "In Skywalker is the Republic's only hope." So we do get a little nod to someone being the only hope, which for our chronological view doesn't make any sense, but for Star Wars fans who have seen everything, obviously the only you're my only hope is a classic line. So I thought that was kind of fun that they put that in there. And then we get the introduction to Padme, animated Padme, which we haven't seen yet.
Nope. We have
Can
not.
I actually just go back a little bit?
Yeah, sorry.
I want to talk about those droids that Count Dooku were with. I think this is the first time we saw the Magna droids, I believe they're called. They're the protection squad for General Grievous as well. But I think this is the only time we actually ever see them fly ships.
Yes.
You're right. And and it was kind of funny because when the first one got shot down, he kind of like
was floating.
I was half thinking that all of a sudden he was going to be like knocking on the window trying to get in, like a Terminator situation where his ship dies and he's just still going, because I was like, oh, but it was just kind of like a comical.
Open the window. Roll down your window.
But yeah, and we get to see them in quite a bit of action pretty soon. I just wanted to touch upon I guess chronologically what happens next. So Padme comes in, and then we get the discussion between Padme and Palpatine, where clearly Palpatine is, manipulating, puppet mastering, knows more than he's letting on, and knows that mentioning that Anakin's in trouble will spring Padme into action, which it does. And she decides she's going to go talk to Jabba's uncle, Zero the Hutt, who has residency on Coruscant. And then our next scene is a cantina band, right?
Yep.
A bar band playing some music. And we learn that much like Jabba, Zero is a unforgiving Hutt. And we have an interaction with an assassin droid, Kronos 327, who Well, it's not him on my shirt, but I believe is kind of this style of droid, maybe.
Yeah.
Gets basically sentenced to the scrapyard
But the
by
same droids too that carried him away. That's a droid on droid self-hate crime, I guess, if you want to call it like that.
it was an interesting, the ordering of Zero to dismantle him.
But can I just talk about that scene too? Because I love the music that they played. It was like a whole like 1940s like
A little jazzy.
jazzy, and it's like pretty much everyone just like I was listening, I was vibing with that music, man. I was about to just pull out a cigarette and a glass of whiskey and just be like, got a light Mac, how's the war going,
Yeah, I think it's like the figure and Dan, like kind of reminds me of. I know I'm jumping around here, but like that episode 4 Cantina Band vibe. Yeah, and then also I'll just bring a reference to 327 because it seems like that's been a number that's been floating around Star Wars quite a bit. Guess that was the docking bay that the Millennium Falcon was docked inside in the first Death Star, and then it's been thrown around a couple of times. And yeah, like you said, Ryan, that 327 was the Sentinel droid for Zero. So yeah,
So I had written down 1138
yeah,
a while back when we started as a number, but now you're pulling out
a 327, yeah.
327 number. All right, we're gonna come up with a full set of lotto numbers to play at the end of this. The Star Wars.
I was about to say, I got bingo coming up soon, man.
So 327, you said was well, we had Kronos, the assassin droid.
Yeah.
The assassin droid. And then you said that was the docking bay for Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
Interesting.
And there's a couple others, but I'll wait until later down the road.
They come up and we can cool, point them out. You're our numbers guy. So Zero, let's talk about Zero a little bit. I mean, kind of to go right off, Tom, what you just said about like the kind of like early jazz music kind of style. And that's Zero's kind of look, right? Kind of a little flappery. Like, I don't know what's going on. He's got like a little feather situation going on and seems very like old loungy. He's an interesting character, I gotta say.
Mm-hmm.
He's very unique because when we think of a Hutt, we think of Jabba's color. He's purple, man. He's purple like Mace Windu's lightsaber. He's like a slug version of Barney. It's weird that we see a different colored Hutt.
He also speaks basic.
Yeah, which is even shocking.
Instead of Huttese, right?
And it's a different atmosphere too, because I mean, with Jabba, you have his palace and just like more like I don't know
stuff.
And then with Zero, it's more classy, upscale. You got the band, you got the bar to the side, and yeah, it's definitely a different.
It reminded me of the encounters you have with Hutts and kind of the Knights of the Old Republic games, right? They're in kind of like a similar esque, where you have like, people playing cards, the dancing, the music, the bar, But you're right. Yeah, it certainly wasn't a palace. It was definitely, it was more like a nightclub vibe, right? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of cool. I don't think this is the last we see of Zero, right? So,
no, we'll see him down the road.
Zero will probably return. And then, so obviously Padme shows up to try to negotiate and gets basically blown off by Zero. But then, and all Zero said was to the droid was take her away. Somehow that meant throw her in a cell. I thought that was interesting. I was like, I thought she was getting kicked out, but she's like getting arrested all of a sudden.
I think what it was, and I guess going to your point later on, like as they're going down the lift, Padme recognizes that IG droid has a separatist blaster in hand, and that's when she's like, oh shit, things are going on. And then she manages to get out before it goes down even further. And then she drops in on a hologram chat with Zero and Count Dooku, and we learn that there's more to this plot than what we realized with the separatists going on. So I'll let you go into that.
Yeah, so we obviously hear that Zero was involved in her, it's not her, sorry. The voice throws me sometimes. His nephew's kidnapping, with working with Dooku, and basically is told by Dooku, if this senator continues the investigation, you should kill her. And obviously, it's Dooku not knowing who the senator is at that time, which then leads to pretty much Padme immediately getting caught while spying. And then Dooku's kind of realization, it's funny. He's like, oh, it's Senator Amidala, right? Like he doesn't already know exactly who she is, because obviously he does. Um, and he changes his tune and he says, you know what? There's some separatist people that would really like to see her. If you don't mind, we'll pay. So Zero is all excited because of the now potential bounty that he's gonna get. Um, well, I want to skip a little bit. Well, not much ahead, but so I didn't think anything about that right there, or no?
No, it's straightforward. It's pretty much we learned that Zero is just getting greedy. He wants his own ambitions are taking over the trade routes and taking over the Hut clan and such.
Um, so then Padme gets brought to the cell where she then convinces the droids to answer her intercom, basically. Um, and we get, or her hologram, whatever it's called, I don't know, her cell phone. And we get the hologram of C3PO, first appearance animated too, I believe.
Voiced by none other than the OG actor Anthony Daniels.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it's
That's
fun. We get a quick flash of C3PO realizing something's up. Hopefully he can save the day. But we then cut back to Tatooine, where we very quickly get, I don't know if the discussion was had here, probably earlier, where Anakin and Ahsoka decide that they're going to split up, or Anakin basically tells her we're splitting up. But so we get Anakin and Dooku confronting each other in the deserts of Tatooine, which then incites our first rematch, Anakin versus Dooku, one-on-one duel without Obi-Wan there or Yoda to come in and save the day. What do you guys think? Let's talk duels. I know we love them.
all right. Well, the reason why they split up, in my opinion, is pretty much they both sense that it was the dark side. It was Dooku or someone of the dark side. But I think Anakin truly knew it was Dooku. But I think they wanted to split up because Anakin wanted to go after Dooku because Dooku sensed Anakin. He never sensed the apprentice. He never sensed
Anakin would know that Dooku would come after him. Yeah.
And then so with this fight, now this is I guess would be my hot take, is that this battle between Dooku and Anakin on Tatooine, I think for Dooku, this was the making of trying to break Anakin. Because he's bringing up some serious, terrible memories of on the same planet that Anakin's experienced true loss. And this is a way for him, a gut punch to the Jedi, trying to take out one of their best warriors, not just as a Jedi, well, not just physically, but mentally break him because of his past.
Yeah, I mean, Count Dooku was very perceptive of that, and like you saw, like Anakin was like ready to like use the Force on him, and obviously Count Dooku like redirected it back at him, and then he was taunting him like, "Oh look, I've got your Padawan on my hologram, and she's not doing well against the droid." So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Tom. I think it was more for Dooku to like taunt him and like really have him like give in to the dark side and do something that he wouldn't have done. And yeah, this was the first time they dueled, and Dooku was quite surprised that Anakin like learned quite a bit from the last time they dueled, because obviously with him he lost an arm with that. So yeah, it was definitely more of a mind game and part of like the whole plot that the separatists were doing.
I think
Well,
this
and I
also
think
brings a fun fact deep dive between the both of us. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Dooku who orchestrated for the Tusken Raiders to kidnap Anakin's mom? Like, this is a whole different subject, but
I mean we're talking non-canon now.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we definitely need to look into that some more. But yeah, I think there probably was a theory, or maybe someone, to Ryan's point, maybe someone explored that non-canonically, where it was Dooku who orchestrated that.
yeah. I was like, I feel like that should just be mentioned. I know non-canon and stuff, but
Mm.
it's good to have little things like that, trying to give a reason why his mom got kidnapped.
Yeah, little
I mean,
what
I
if
feel like
kind of
this
thing.
whole slate
Yeah,
race thing
like
is
the
gonna
whole what
come
if
up.
situations. Yes.
It's gonna come up at some point. So yeah, I think it's probably worth another discussion down the road.
So I wanted to point out, Mike, you mentioned during the battle, obviously we get Dooku right off the bat using his Force lightning again. But then you said Anakin tries to use the Force on Dooku, and Dooku turns it back on him. I want to talk about that a little bit more because it's not just the Force. Anakin attempts to basically start like a sandstorm and uses the Force to push a bunch of sand at Dooku. Dooku then redirects the sand and uses it to knock Anakin on his ass. And I think that's just important to note that Anakin gets defeated by sand because we know he doesn't like it. So
Make it sound like
that
a
part
whole
made me
Of course,
chuckle when
that's
it happened. I was
everything.
like, of course it would be sand that would take basically bring Anakin down. Found it comical.
very.
But yeah, so we do get then the obviously the deeper plot where Dooku only shows obviously a little bit of something. It's not the full picture, and yet again, the reoccurring theme. It then sends Anakin off to rush into something without all the information and all the facts, and to the point where he's so gung ho on it that he drives right past Ahsoka, who he's so worried about, while she's 1-on-3, protecting the baby hut on her back, the hutlet on her back, and she is fighting off or attempting to fight off these three guard. What are they called? Sorry.
Guards,
Back
yeah.
regards, yeah.
Yeah, who wield these gnarly kind of
Electric
energy,
stuff. Yeah.
electric like dual things that
Staffs.
can
Staffs,
staffs that are, I don't know if they're made of Beskar or what they're made of, but they can hold up to a lightsaber. A lightsaber doesn't destroy them. So that was kind of an interesting, but clearly just totally feeding into Anakin and the way he fought Dooku the first time. Right, Dooku knows that Anakin just rushes in because the last time they encountered, that's exactly what he did, and so he plays right into him, and there he goes. He goes rushing off to at this point in his mind to rescue Ahsoka, who's been kidnapped. He didn't stop to think like, oh wait, maybe let me try to find her. But she's holding her own, and some. So Anakin goes rushing right in, gives up his weapon, and is at the
attempts to negotiate. Yeah.
attempts, aggressively takes his weapon back, holds a lightsaber to Jabba's throat, threatening everybody. They're threatening him. Seems like everything's gonna go down. I wanted to go back though to the Ahsoka fight. We kind of skipped over that. But so what did you guys think about that? Ahsoka managing to take down, not just take down the three droids, but she also protects her back, which Anakin did not do. We didn't mention, but during the duel with Dooku, Anakin has a backpack with rocks on his back to make him think it's the Hutlet. And yeah, it's the rocks and stuff, but it's still, Dooku still manages to slash the backpack in half, which if he could hit the backpack, he could have gone a little further and maybe have gotten Anakin. I found it interesting, but Ahsoka managed to completely, like, no harm at all came to the Hutlet on her back. Wow. Well, she fought off 3 of these droids.
I think she was very mindful of it wasn't about being aggressive. It was about trying to be more defensive in this situation because she's still very aware that she has Jabba's son on her back. So she's got to be very careful with.
Even with the
The whole
splitting
thing,
off, yeah, you don't want
the
to.
whole ship, the ship. Anakin, we need guns, go forward. Ahsoka, we need our shields working on our back. And then, sure enough, the two fights. Anakin going forward with his lightsaber, not protecting his back. Ahsoka manages to defend off 3 while protecting her back. Sorry,
Yeah,
it just as you were saying it popped into my head. But
No, now that you mentioned it, is like that is ironic that that's the way
smart,
those.
I think it's smart writing. I think they,
It truly is.
It was foreshadowing at its best.
when they were like in the desert together, it was like, oh, we should stick together. Like, who's gonna watch your back? And yeah, I mean, to your point, they sensed that there was definitely a lot. Dark Side was playing something, but it's better that they split up because yeah, like Anakin expected that Dooku would be coming after him, and who knows what was planned, but figured keep and also you just see that Anakin was trusting his Padawan to have Zero or not Zero. I forget what the little Hutlet's name, but like or Stinky.
I don't know, Stinky. That's it.
It's called Stinky. Yeah.
But like Anakin had a lot of confidence and trust in his Padawan that she would come through. So you definitely see a little bit of that, more of that trust compared to the beginning of the movie where Anakin was like, "I really don't want you as my Padawan," but
yeah, but then it's completely gone as soon as Dooku shows the one clip.
yeah.
He's like, oh, you don't know my Padawan, and then he's like, oh yeah, look at this, and she's like, he immediately surrenders his weapon, goes, it was just, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely funny, and then of course she comes in, interrupts the, attempt at everybody killing each other, to be like, hey,
I have him.
I'm here. I'm here with your baby. So we get this lovely reunion of father and son. And then he says, okay, kill them all.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, we just happened to deliver your son, but we're still gonna kill you.
Yeah.
As a way of saying thanks. Yeah.
No, thank you for not killing my son, but you kidnapped him. So I got to kill you still.
So then the ordered execution gets interrupted by a phone call from Zero, and when he answers, it's not Zero, it's in fact Padme. I guess we skipped over. Oh, I skipped right over. I'm sorry.
But yes, Padme gets rescued by
C-3PO and a bunch of clones, but it looks like C-3PO is the one who did it for a second, which was also funny.
Oh yeah, and remember that clone? And during that clone scene where they rescue her, I love the one scene where the clone just dives over the bar, like some action type movie type of stuff. Man, it was perfect for me, man. I was just like, fighting's going on, boom, 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 and one dude's just like, boom, 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 diving over the bar,
hiding behind cover. Yep, and 3PO's timing was perfect.
Yep. And speaking of perfect timing, Padme's time, perfect. Calls in, sets the record straight with Jabba, and then this is where we get the little peek, just kind of the way the shots of both their faces. We get a little peek of obviously our hidden love between the married couple, the secretly married couple, and the way they talk to each other. Seemed like they were basically telling each other they were basically saying I love you without saying I love you. So I found that kind of interesting. But that's kind of what I was talking about in the beginning, where we finally get to look at one Anakin. We remember that Anakin is hiding this dark secret of massacring these sand people, and then 2, this other secret, I won't call it dark, but of this forbidden love that he's hiding from everybody. So I thought that was kind of interesting that we get that towards the end here to remind us, and chronologically it's nice too, because kind of forgot about it the last few episodes because it really wasn't in the forefront or brought up.
Yeah, Yeah, this is a very important scene because now we're seeing the dynamic of these two characters, Anakin and Padme, how they have to, keep moving forward. Her being all diplomatic, unfortunately for him, being separated from her, being a general of the Republic. So it's going to be interesting to see down the road how they still manage to, have the love for each other. Wow, I cannot talk today.
How they make the
Anyway,
long distance relationship work
Yeah.
yes.
while hiding it from everybody around them, sort of. We'll see. We'll have to pay attention to see who. I mean, I'd like to think it's in my opinion, it's very clear that Palpatine is aware.
Yeah.
So he knows about it, and then obviously we know C-3PO and R2-D2 know about it because they were,
Which I think is
the
going to
best
be
man
a
and the maid of honor.
huge factor down the road with the Separatists, with Padme and Anakin. Also, after Dooku left, and you see Sidious going, let him have this win. I think them, with Padme being involved with this whole ordeal, Palpatine slash Sidious, who's like, well, this adds a new element to helping us achieve our victory.
Yeah, you're right, Tom. We get it again and again where it's this, they failed. It seems like they failed, but then they have their huddle and they're like, all according to plan. Like, this worked. It worked. So it's so interesting that we've yet to see them fail, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we've really, at least, they appear to be failing to the Republic, but from our understanding of things, they haven't failed yet. Everything seems to be going the way they want it to.
Yeah, they want the Republic to win these big battles, thinking that this is going to give them the edge over the Separatists. But to your point, yeah, it's all part of
Term
the
strategy, it's a fail. Long-term strategy, it's still working in place.
Yeah, they're playing the long chess game. So I mean,
Yeah.
without the pawn, but
More strategic. Yeah. So with that, we do get the ending of the film. I did notice, and I assume you guys did too. It was a very Star Wars ending, in my opinion. Especially, and we'll reference it because for our true Star Wars fans, we've seen everything, and I mean, I'm assuming we don't have any newbies that have never seen it watching this, but who knows? A New Hope ends kind of very similar, where all your characters are kind of looking almost out at the viewer, and this was kind of how this ended with them. Obviously, Attack of the Clones ended with them looking out into the sunset, but they were all staring kind of at us, and then we get our wipe and fade to the credits and stuff with the music. So that was very fun.
yeah, it was like the Tatooine sunset theme. So yeah, there's definitely a big nod to like A New Hope, like you said, Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like the whole celebratory theme, but yeah, you had the clones lined up. You had
It was a
Anakin,
little celebratory, right?
R2,
Instead of the medal, it was the bait. It was
Obi-Wan, Yoda, yeah, and
well, and
the Republic's gonna get treaty finalized and all is good.
yeah.
Yep.
It was a happy ending, right?
Mhm.
But it had that same look where they were looking, which I think we get. I want to say that was kind of how. No, it wasn't. Yeah, was it how Phantom ended too? Yeah, Phantom ended with them celebrating at the end of the war, and they're all kind of up on the almost like on a stage. It's almost like a bow on a stage without a.
Yeah, they're on the steps of the palace. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, so
almost like Return of the Jedi, but they didn't really look at so much, but they were all pretty much right there.
yeah, and we'll get to those too. But that's what I'm saying though is how it is. For the Star Wars films again. Besides Attack of the Clones, so far because that was a little different. You get that kind of them looking. Oh, again, I'll say it. We'll call it a bow. You almost get like a bow to the audience at the end, which is kind of fun. It's very fun actually. I really like that they do that, and I didn't realize till right now that I kind of missed that. That's not how the Attack of the Clones ended. Maybe they should have flipped that marriage scene so they were kind of facing us a little bit, but that you couldn't have had everybody there either, so it really wouldn't have worked. All right. Anything else? Any other deep dives or hot takes?
Honestly, when Anakin gave his lightsaber. If he didn't give up his lightsaber, or when he took it back, he could have killed that whole room.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, not where he was standing.
Oh,
I was
Oh,
but
waiting.
He'd find a way.
I get nervous. I get nervous when someone's standing in front of Jabba every time. That's
Yeah.
just that. And again, that'll be later on chronologically. But I was waiting for it because I hadn't seen. I mean, I think Mike. I'm not sure about you, but I know I haven't seen this film in a
been
very.
a long,
I think
been
I've
a
only
long time.
I think I
Yeah.
only watched it once too. So this was at least my second viewing of it. And yeah, I didn't know. I was waiting for. I was like, oh great, Ahsoka's gonna have to go save him from a Rancor. Like again, getting ahead of ourselves, but
Yeah, no
always
rank.
got to be careful when you're talking to Jabba the Hutt.
Very
Great.
true.
Well, I'm good with it. I mean,
All right, Mike.
all right, well, it's a wrap. Thank you everyone for joining Three Simple Men, making their way through the galaxy. Hit that like, comment, subscribe, and come back next week as we take another dive into Star Wars: The Clone Wars animated series. May the Force be with you always.